One is I've got a family member who's in the service 20 plus years. So he's fortunate to have a benefit from his military service, but also has an annuity as well. And, talk about how spending your time how you want to. He volunteers at a kitchen 2 days a week. He doesn't have to. He helps out my mom when she's got home projects that I can't go help out with. He doesn't have to do that. He's got the time and the ability to do that. So he can make his choices and use that free time as he wants to. And the other example, we jokingly call, I've talked to you about this client before, Billy.
Billy Smalls.
That's right. So, he actually, we had added some additional funds to his existing annuity. He said, Zach, with this money, I'm retiring in June. So I'm ready to turn on this income. He said, it's all thanks to you. I said, no. I said, Bill, I said, this is your planning that put this in place. As much as I'd love to take credit for it, you took the first step in making a plan so that you would allow yourself this opportunity. So that really brings us to how we really manage those behaviors. And just that's the key thing that we're talking about today, right? That behavioral psychology and behavioral management of how we can set up and be successful when that time does come. And really, how do we avoid falling into these emotional traps of riding the market or getting in and out of the market in these situations? Number one is to have a plan. Having a plan in place, like we had talked about, nobody's really here to teach you that. We're doing what we can on our part. We're happy to continue doing it. And it's just having a plan, not just for growth, but also having an income plan. Because, like we've talked about, unless you're fortunate enough to have a pension, you've got Social Security, but that's really going to cover roughly 40% of your needs. So, having a plan being one, using tools like annuities to lock in a predictable income or predictable return would be another. Um, Avoid checking the market daily. That's a tough one, especially depending upon how much you've got there. That's a retirement killer, right?
Absolutely.
Um, Also, just segmenting your money using a bucket strategy for a peace of mind. We talk about this a lot. Can you give an example of maybe what you've used in the past?
Yeah, when you look at just the foundational strategy for retirement planning, it starts again with that foundation of income. So if you want to think of it like a bucket strategy, or I prefer to use like a pyramid.
Yep.
Maslow's retirement, or I'm sorry, Maslow's hierarchy of needs was a psychological study of human needs and how they stack upon each other. And I transitioned that thought to retirement planning, and that's the retirement hierarchy, right? For a successful retirement. And the foundation of that pyramid is income.
Hmm.
And so if you think of building this pyramid or using a bucket strategy to segment your money, you're giving those buckets or those blocks of the pyramid different intended purposes. You can't just look at your nest egg of money and say, all right, this is going to be legacy. This is also going to be long term care in the future. This is also going to be income now and into the future. This is also going to be growth so I can, buy an RV in the future. You can't look at one thing and expect it to solve all those problems and do those well and in an optimal manner. So the right approach is to take that nest egg and then start to segment it and give those buckets different intended purposes. And it starts with the first bucket or the first building block of the pyramid. That's income. So you take all your living expenses, add that up, create a budget monthly. What is the amount of money you need to be able to sustain your lifestyle today and into the future? You start today, though, just get that number. You add up your Social Security, what that amount is. If you have other sources of guaranteed income, pensions or annuities, you add all of those up. And whatever that adds up to, if there's a difference or a delta between what you need to live each month to sustain your lifestyle and how much income is coming in, then you fill the gap or bridge the gap. And that's where you put enough of your money into an income annuity to fill that gap and meet your living expense budget. And from there, once that first bucket's done, the second bucket's your growth bucket. That's where now, because we've risked off enough of your assets, enough of your nest egg to support your income need, and we have that income foundation solidified. Remember, building a house, you put the foundation down. Once that's occurred, once that has occurred, the second bucket is your growth bucket. The growth bucket and the intended purpose is to grow your money, the remaining assets outside of the annuity, long term. And so now you have the ability to grow that money. You can use the S&P 500 index fund. You can use safer growth assets. But really, because you've risked off enough to support your income, it
Mhm.
affords you to risk on the rest of those assets. So you can afford to be 100% in stocks with the rest of those assets if you so choose and have the stomach to do that. But that growth bucket, the intended purpose of it is to be for future, what we call unexpected spending shocks. Those would be like you have a healthcare situation that you didn't anticipate and you need some money to help with that. Or maybe your roof blows off in a hurricane. We're down here in Florida. That stuff happens all the time and you have a big deductible. Well, you can use the growth bucket for that. Um, you can use it for leisure. So going on trips. I know that's what my client that I mentioned earlier, that's what he's doing. He's got enough income